producing real estate broker, author, CEO, and founder of TrustedAgentUSA.com, the ultimate real estate matchmaker, connecting you with top-performing agents for 2% commission. Each week, we bring you exclusive interviews with industry experts, covering everything from staging to negotiation strategies to home inspection issues and everything in between. Whether you're selling your home, a first-time home buyer, or a seasoned investor, we've got you covered. Let's make your real estate dreams a reality in this fast-moving and ever-changing real estate market. This program is funded in whole or in part by Trusted Agent USA, Illinois license number 475-145-795. Now, here's Larry. Welcome to Real Estate Radio, hosted by the real estate therapist Larry Shakman, a top-producing real estate broker, author, CEO, and founder of TrustedAgentUSA.com, the ultimate real estate matchmaker, connecting you with top-performing agents for 2% commission. Each week, we bring you exclusive interviews with industry experts, covering everything from staging to negotiation strategies to home inspection issues and everything in between. Whether you're selling your home, a first-time home buyer, or a seasoned investor, we've got you covered. Let's make your real estate dreams a reality in this fast-moving and ever-changing real estate market. This program is funded in whole or in part by Trusted Agent USA, Illinois license number 475-145-795. Now, here's Larry. Welcome to Real Estate Radio, hosted by the real estate therapist Larry Shakman, a top-producing real estate broker, author, CEO, and founder of TrustedAgentUSA.com, the ultimate real estate matchmaker, connecting you with top-performing agents for 2% commission. Each week, we bring you exclusive interviews with industry experts, covering everything from staging to negotiation strategies to home inspection issues and everything in between. Whether you're selling your home, a first-time home buyer, or a seasoned investor, we've got you covered. Let's make your real estate dreams a reality in this fast-moving and ever-changing real estate market. This program is funded in whole or in part by Trusted Agent USA, Illinois license number 475-145-795. Now, here's Larry.
All right, you guys, welcome back to, of course, Dylan, name of the show.
The Real Estate Radio Show Podcast.
You got it. I just lost your audio for a minute.
The Real Estate Radio Show Podcast. Are we
there
back?
We go. Yeah.
There we go. I don't know what's going on, my man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic.
I know you've been busy the last couple of days. We'll get into that in a minute. I want to just take care of a couple of things real quickly. If you guys are watching us live right now on YouTube, Facebook, at the Real Estate Radio Show Podcast group, or at on LinkedIn at Larry Shakman, wherever you might be watching us, you can comment or you can text 630-296-4329. If you have anything you want to say but don't necessarily want to hop on, just text us and we'll be able to answer those questions immediately. Dylan, you got a lot going on. Why don't you make the big announcement?
Let's not bury the lead, my friend. So I am moving my business, my loan origination service business, to Neighborhood Loans, which is a Chicago-based national lender with corporate office in Downers Grove, a few minutes from here and from my house where I'm going to work out of. And we're going to be able to turn around and serve clients better there ultimately, in terms of the idea that they've got some loan product availability that we're going to be excited to share. And matter of fact, let me hit that real quick. We're going to do a lot more work on VA loans, which I'm very passionate about. The team I'm joining has access to renovation loans, which is important, as we've talked about, for the opportunity to acquire and flip and solve the current inventory issues. And The third thing is they've got some nice access to second lien stuff, which is important for the clients in my existing database who we've worked with before, and really anybody who's got 3% and lower mortgages now, who still needs to access some of their home equity. So excited about it, excited to get moving. We're still processing and shuffling some paperwork related to licensing and new emails and computers, all that stuff. But that should be wrapped up here. But it is official. The deal was signed a few days ago, and we're up and running. So
Awesome. And where's that office located again?
office is located in Downers Grove, just off I-88.
Oh, awesome. You're right. You're next door to me in Naperville.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, you know, that entrance ramp in Downers that you go to get on 88 and shoot west to Naperville, it's on that exit.
Yeah. Hey, let's remind everybody also that every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., we're broadcasting live from the studios of WCPT 820 a.m. right in the heart of Chicago, right in Gladstone Park there. And be sure to tune in because we have great guests every Saturday. Also, today we may have John Hoffman, who's a big REO agent, hopping on with us as well.
Nice. I like it. You're just a heads up, refresh yours end of things, Larry, because my video has stopped showing. You're literally frozen. It's a good look for you. So are you there? Did the whole thing freeze?
All difficulties here. You back?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? You were frozen. I might've been frozen on your end.
Yeah.
So, okay.
No
cool.
biggie.
Yeah.
So tell me what you got on the board today, what you're looking at, you want to discuss, and then we'll,
I want to talk about the Fed, Larry. And less, well, and more the things that are affecting the Fed rather than the Fed meeting itself, right? We talked a little bit about last week's Fed meeting last week on Saturday. But I think that the Fed has a couple of interesting things going on that I think the market is coming to grips with. And so you and I have been excitedly watching rates drop from 8% to 6.5%.
Yeah, it's not like I predicted that or anything.
However, we've seen an increase over the course of the last couple of weeks as things have started to shake out here in the first quarter. The most important is, look, everybody lowered rates aggressively because bond traders were of the belief we were going to see rates get lowered by the Fed, the rate they control, in March.
Right.
The economic data we've seen so far this year says that's not happening. Whether that's
it's definitely not happening in March.
Right. That's the January jobs figure that we talked about. There's some inflation figures in the CPI, et cetera, et cetera. We're really seeing some stickiness. The other issue is the supply and demand of debt. So today, in an hour, we're going to get information as the Fed is selling $42 billion in 30-year bonds. And if the market doesn't absorb those well, we could see higher mortgage rates in an hour and a half than we have now. Now, if it does absorb it well, we'll see them higher. But usually when more supply comes to market, the supply and demand equation in life forces the price higher, right? And so at the end of the day, or the price lower and the rates higher, really, to be most accurate. So I wouldn't be surprised if we continued to see a trend towards higher rates, not that we're going back to 8%, but that the run lower, and I did predict this, didn't I? When I said we're not going on a straight line to under 6% from 8%.
Of course not. No.
We're going to bounce back a little. Rates will be a little higher. We'll see where things will shake out. And you remember me saying at the beginning of January, if this works for you, you should go get it because you don't know what's happening later.
That's right.
That's very much in play currently. So, we have a bunch of clients and really not just clients, but if you're not a client of ours and you want to talk about this sort of thing, if you bought a house in the last half of 2023, the opportunity to grab more affordable financing may be available. And I was talking with very specifically with a client last week. He's like, yeah, I saw 6.5, but I'm waiting for 6. I'm like, dude, I don't think you should, right? Like you can save $260 a month. I mean, he was the one guy, he closed the highest in August, right? Like he closed at 7.8, 7.5 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was as high. And so the thing is that there are lots of ways to structure your refinance, especially in Illinois, which is a low-cost refinance state generally, right? You usually refinance for less than a couple of grand in hard costs. And so if you can turn around and save $260 a month and it costs you $2,000, you're even in less than a year.
Yeah.
And so you should do that because you can always refinance again later. It's not necessary to try to guess the bottom, because if you try to do that, that's a fool's errand, as we've seen over the last couple of years, but especially as it relates to the economic news that we're getting.
Yeah. And like I've said over and over again, if you think you're going to wait the market out, and if you think you're going to be able to predict where things are going, you're going to lose that battle 100% of the time, almost.
Right.
If you win it, you're just lucky. It's pure luck. But yeah, when we were at 6.5%, if you were waiting for the rates to get to 6% before you refi or before you go out and purchase, well, now we're at 6.7 whatever.
Yeah, 6.75. I mean, for your
and it's
best,
not bad.
No, I don't disagree. I mean, I think it's a very workable number. Let's not kid ourselves. It's not a bad thing. However, here's the thing I would just tell you. Again, you can't turn around and guess the bottom. It's just not possible.
Exactly. No, you're not going to be able to do that. And if me and you can't do it with a combined 50 years in this business, believe me, don't try doing it as a consumer, because you're going to lose that battle every single time. I will say that I think the market will absorb that bond sale. I really do. And I do think that the Fed rate is going to go down in July. I don't think it's going to go down in March, but I do think it will go down in July. And I do think that'll affect rates again. I think the Feds are a little, the market is heated up. It really is. I mean, all the numbers, I am not pulling these numbers out of my ass when I talk about them. The numbers are.
You're exactly right.
The numbers are about not pulling it out of my ass, or what?
Right. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, I'm not, because the reality of it is that, and I wanted to get into this a little bit last week, and we did towards the end of the show, but we had a great guest on. We had Cliff Capson on of Cliff Capson Consulting. We talked about Drive It and all that. But at the end of the show, we got into a little bit of the numbers here, and I want to get into that again, because
as long as we don't get into any more Drive It, I'm good.
Yeah, we won't need, we covered Drive It, and that's important. As a matter of fact, we have a house on the market right now that's getting about $35,000 in repairs done on their Drive It before they sell. It's already under contract, but they're fixing these Drive It repairs before closing, so the buyer doesn't have to absorb that, and we don't have to hear about it on inspection. Right. But it's expensive to fix that stuff. It's not cheap.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, but as far as the numbers go, if you look at all of the numbers, if you look at consumer sentiment, if you look at consumer spending, if you look at the price of some food staples, which have gone down, if you look at, and here's the other thing about food, I want to, food prices. I don't care who the president is or who your senator is or anything else. Who cares? The reality of it is that a lot of things affect food prices. The war in the Ukraine affects food prices across the board because of grain. The Ukraine is the largest producer of grain in the world. And when Russia decides to block the shipping lanes to get that grain to people, that is going to raise the price of grain and other things as well. So, but the other thing that affects food prices are weather patterns. Our weather patterns have changed greatly over even the last 5 years, and we've seen it. So there's a lot of things that affect food prices, but the good thing is that food prices have come down and stabilized They haven't come down enough, but some of these staples have come down.
Well,
So
and Larry, the thing I think everybody needs to understand the following idea, and that is, even when prices stop accelerating, and food can kind of be the exception, but generally they don't come back down. Now you have a new higher base
True.
rate of expense, right? Like
Yes.
they're like, wow, we increased prices 0% last year. It's like, yeah, but they went up 20% 2 years ago.
Correct.
So it's 10% a year for 2 years. Like it's
Yeah.
still not cheap. And that's a real thing that has an impact on the economy, to your point.
Oh, yeah.
But also has a longer term impact on rates, as we talk about the Fed fighting inflation, fighting the market. It's very tough for them. They want to see a 2% year over year inflation target. But as inflation gets baked into the economy, it's hard to get back down all the way to that target.
Yeah. Let's see what we got. A couple comments here from a friend of mine, Chuck. Commercial is picking up even with the rates being where they are. That's interesting, Chuck.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
look, here's the other thing, Larry. I think that commercial is an interesting animal, and it's real estate related. So let's talk about it a little without getting too bogged down in it.
And by the way, Chuck's been in commercial for 25 years.
Yeah, well, there you go. I think that one of the things that you have to recognize is commercial financing generally is 5-year financing, right? So you look out from today, you figure out what that number is, and normally that engine is built on the idea that the lender gets to review your financials and collect another set of fees at the 5-year mark, right? Like that's how that business on the financing front works. So you build that cost into your analysis, whether it's office buildings or medical buildings or storage units, right? So that's just the deal. And so ultimately, as we've come out of the low rate environment that we had, lots of people are moving to a situation where they're not going to be able to make the math work if they just kind of hang out and rates go any higher from here. So the thing is that if we can get people in the commercial space to proactively manage their situation or sell, right? Like, hey, we especially if you bought in the mid-20, you bought before 2020, right? So you bought an office building, you got it at low rates, you got in, you did your improvements, you've increased your value. Maybe your value is not what it was 2 years ago, but it's higher than it was when you bought it. You can sell to another operator, book your profits, and move on. That's not going to hurt you either.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to have to talk with Chuck and have him on. We're going to bring John on here.
Let's do that.
Oh, my man. There he is.
Hey, boys. What's going on?
John, how are you, buddy?
Good, man. How's things?
Heading to another lucky homeowner's house, huh?
Actually, I'm at another foreclosure home out in beautiful DeKalb right now. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right.
Nice.
I'm actually staring at the university right across the street. So good location.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
I was out at Kishwaukee College last week.
What was that?
I was out at Kishwaukee College up the street there, refereeing basketball.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah, buy that house and rent it out. It's
so is that house a deal? Is that
what was that?
Is that house a deal? Tell us about the house.
Nah, it's being rehabbed. It's gonna take, it'll take Fannie probably a year or 2 years to rehab it, and and eventually it'll hit the market. And Larry knows the whole program. It'll probably be 20% overpriced plus 9%.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Fannie has a weird way of pricing. They have this 3-month marketing pricing thing they do that some guy behind a curtain figured out somewhere along the line. And then they also add to it then they also, and it's not John that's behind the curtain, then they also add to it, because I know he wouldn't price it like they do. Right. Then they also add the cost of all the repairs on top of that to whatever their inflated price is, which is why you see a lot of these foreclosures hanging around on the market for a while, because they just don't make sense to purchase when they first come on the market.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. So what I was
it's gotten probably since the last time I was on, it's gotten worse. I mean, it's just,
oh yeah.
You can't even wrap your brain around who came up with this business model. I mean, I'm just a part of the machine, but there's so much easier ways to do this, than to just sit here and sit on these for 2 years.
They would get more money for those properties if they priced them just slightly under market value than 30% over market value. They'd get immediate, but the other thing is there's a 30-day period where they're only going to sell them to owner occupants, which is fine, because if they priced it right, they would move these properties in a week. They get these things under contract in a week, and you wouldn't have to keep dragging your butt out there to check out, have any windows been broken, or do we have any squatters?
Well, and keep in mind too, is a lot of times they'll overprice it, and the 30-day window for owner occupants expires. So we'll have investors buy properties that are fully rehabbed for a homeowner, and they'll just rent it out, because by the time they get to the 90-day, 120-day, the price is finally right. Investors will buy anything at this point. They'll buy anything as long as they can even break even on it. So they'll even take a loss.
Yeah, 100%.
It's insane, man. It's I wish I could sit here and bundle it up into a nice package and explain it to you, but it's like the REO world is just a mess.
Yeah, I actually, me and you could probably bundle it up real quick, but we'll get kicked off the air because there's going to be a lot of F-bombs dropped here.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's something we should do in a bar.
Yeah, no, we're going to do it here one day, and we're just going to warn people, if you don't like that, don't listen.
Yeah, it's completely crazy. And the foreclosure list at Kane County, I mean, I follow that every week, and it's slowly growing, but it's almost like you're either paying your mortgage on time or you're in forbearance. There's no in between.
Yeah.
It's like I get people that I got a couple houses that I go to, and they haven't paid since 19.
Yeah.
2019. I mean, it's like, and they're like, well, I'm in forbearance. It's like, well, do you know what they're doing with that? With your forbearance? It's like, I don't know. They haven't gotten back to me. It's like,
great.
Nobody literally, I mean, it's literally like that where, even the people in them, they're sitting there going, wow, did I win the lottery or what?
Exactly. Yeah, actually you did.
It's crazy.
You think about that at $2,000 a month, man, which is a very average mortgage payment, right? Considering property taxes here. If you haven't made a mortgage payment in 4 years, that's what? $200,000. Like to have $200,000 to spend on mortgage payments, you got to earn 280 or 3 depending on your tax bracket. Like that's a massive personal financial windfall on some levels, but I would tell you that most of those people are broke and mad at the man.
Oh, absolutely. They're not saving money while they're not paying their mortgage.
Right.
Keep in mind
I could save if I didn't have to make a house payment.
Keep in mind too, it's like these houses that they're living in, they also don't have any money to fix it up.
Yeah.
So their property is slowly deteriorating, and
the deferred maintenance can be murder.
Oh, the deferred maintenance is huge on these. I mean, when I get these, it's like there's nothing left of these properties. I mean, all the trim's bad, the drywall's bad, the kitchen's bad, the floors are bad. There's nothing left because they have no money to fix any of this stuff up right now.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, I'm sympathetic to that. One of the things we did a lot of research in the original foreclosure crisis 15 years ago. And, as we tried to work with folks on loan modifications and getting things worked out for them so they didn't go to foreclosure, one of the things that we learned is by the time somebody misses the first payment, they've had a year of stress. And that stress includes deferring maintenance so they can make their mortgage payments, right? Skipping car payments to make mortgage payments, right? All that familial stress of not making those payments and that deferred maintenance. It's a year before.
Totally agree.
One of the challenges I think Fannie had at the time and still exists is by the time you get around to taking possession of this property, no matter how long you think you've been at it, add a year to the family's experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dylan, that is such a great point. I mean, I remember, and John knows this, knocking on doors and just, my whole approach to this was when I would knock on a door for the first time, right? And we put our little notice up and knock on the door and see if anyone's answering. If someone answers, my job was, as far as I'm concerned, is to let them know I'm on their side. No one's coming here to take no one's going to kick you out of your house tomorrow. And that's not the way this works. And what I would typically tell people is, wait until I put a cash for keys notice on your door and then get in touch with me immediately. And the servicer is actually going to help you make that move out of this house and keep you as whole as possible, at least give you moving expenses. But until then, no one's coming by to kick you out of the house. And if anybody does, it's a scam. Kick them away, kick them to the curb, because that's not how this works. Am I right? Is that right, John? That's still the way it works, right?
Oh, we lost John.
Yeah, we might have lost John.
Right, we lost John totally.
But
he raised a really good point, for sure.
But that's how it works. I mean, no one is going to immediately come to your house. So, as a matter of fact, we have a property that's under contract, and I just, without naming names, obviously, or anything like that, or where the property is located, but we have a property that, let me bring John back on. We have a property.
That's what happens when you get a phone call.
Yeah, no, I get it. So we have a property, John, that's on the market right now, that's under contract, closing in March. Has a contractual closing date of March 14th, right? Mm-hmm. Chase called the seller up today and said, you need to make this $2,200 payment today to stop this from going into foreclosure. As a matter of fact, someone visited the house like me and you typically did the first time today. Chase had someone go out there and take a walk around, a visual, probably doing an exterior BPO on the house, taking some pictures, giving them some idea of what's going on there, right? And so the client was asking me, well, do I need to pay this, or can I just wait until March 14th when we close, because I have equity in the house? I said, look, here's the deal. Once that house goes into foreclosure, everything changes. It gets a lot stickier. It gets a lot more complicated. I'm a title agent, so I've had to remove list pendants from homes that were in foreclosure or had other loans on there that were in arrears. And it's not super difficult to do, but I can tell you this right now. Your lender is not your friend when you get into that position. They are not your friend. They're going to do everything they can.
Let's call it your servicer, Larry, just to be more
servicer, right?
Yeah, okay, no, good point, Dylan. Your servicer is not your friend. In this case, though, Chase is not this client's friend. And what I told them is, if they told you have to pay $2,200 today to avoid going into foreclosure, and that only takes them out to 3/1, and our closing date is 3/14. I said, get your butt in there and pay that $2,200, because once it goes into foreclosure,
all bets are off.
All bets are off. Other things come on your title that we're going to have to remove. It gets a lot stickier, and you don't want to do that. So yeah, you're right. Not your lender. Your servicer is not your friend. The only friends they have are their their shareholders. That's their friends. Other than that, you ain't getting any. They're not going to.
Yeah, there's no consideration, and I get it. Right? I mean, one of the things they've learned is you can never really have enough faith to decide who to do favors for and who not to, right? Because human nature being what it is, you start giving people breaks and they look for more breaks. Give them an inch, they take a mile. And I get it. They're in financial distress. Like, there's no good way in terms of when to move forward with the foreclosure. So you just have to say, look, these are the dates and this is this. One of the morbid things in servicing, just as an example that doesn't have to do with foreclosure, but I think it's the same spirit. The servicers of reverse mortgages have electronic death notice notifications, and they get them every day from all over the country. And as soon as they get a name match with somebody they have in their servicing portfolio, they check it out and they immediately file notice to foreclose. Why? Because in the states that it takes a year and a half, 2 years for that
5
process
years
to wind through the courts.
Illinois.
Right. They don't want to be in a situation where they've delayed the beginning of the exercise of their legal rights. Meantime, the poor family is like, move mom to the nursing home, or in this case, the death notice, right? They're at the funeral and the foreclosure's already been filed. And it's not that they want to foreclose, like you've got 6 months to a year to have the estate dispose of the property, whatever that looks like, right? Refinance it and keep it, or turn around and put it on the market, or whatever the case is. But you have to do it under the cloud of the pending foreclosure dates.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they'll just foreclose because they don't want it to get delayed. And so
I have a couple of those. Dylan, those REO, the reverse, the reverse mortgages. I've got a couple of those listings, and they're,
and the reverse mortgage is a fine product. It's just the servicing end of things is it's impossible to turn around and make a case-by-case exception for anybody, right? Whether it's a 96-year-old person who's going to the nursing home because of their reverse mortgage situation, or it's, I can't make my payments, right? No matter what the reason, job loss, divorce, death, like they don't care.
Right.
It's unfortunate, but the system does not care.
Yeah.
I think in the REO world, I think that we've let it, we didn't help enough back in 08, 9, 10, 11. We've overhelped now, and it's you don't have a free market as it should be. Some people just shouldn't own a home. I mean, period. I've known a few of them, and they just bumble along and they're like, man, I can't make my payments. I bought 2 motorcycles. It happens, and they're over nurturing that now. If you don't, now you've got this pile up in the back room of people that aren't paying, that really, and they might be in forbearance and they'll never pay. I'm telling you, I can sense that from the houses I go to, the people I've been talking to, and just in general. I mean, if you look at some of the forbearance stats, I mean, I think 28% of them, the people were never even worked anything out. They just disappeared. They didn't work out they applied, they talked to the bank, and then they disappeared. And the banks are like, well, we don't know, the guy never got back to us. So, that's 28% of them that are just hanging in the wind. It's not a free market. And then, I hear like the government going, hey, we're going to do convert, commercial space into condos and stuff. And I mean, supposedly they're there to try to help us to get more inventory. Well, then why is Fannie back in October dumping a portfolio of underperforming loans? I think it was like 3,400 loans. They dumped it off to an investor, but of course they put in the notes that, but the investor had to work with the people to keep their homes. Well, that's going to last. Once they take over the thing, that's going to last about 2 weeks. They're going to go, hey, you got your money? No, great, get out. And they're going to become rentals.
Yeah.
To me, they talk out of both sides of their mouth, and it doesn't make any sense.
And that's a really good point, John, because one thing that, we deal with now that we didn't deal with 10, 12 years ago, or even less than that, are these corporate hedge funds that are buying up houses all over the country, much more in the South than they are here.
Right.
But they're buying up swaths of single family homes that they're turning into rentals that are never going to be on the market again.
Right.
Or won't be on the market again for a long, long time.
Right.
So
it's a mess.
What's that?
I said it's a mess, man.
Yeah.
It is. I still get calls, from stuff I have listed that's a Fannie rehab that's beautiful. And they're like, hey, can you get them down? We're a corporate buyer out of Tulsa. It's like, really, man?
Yeah, you
You
don't know
know?
how this works, dude. You
Yeah, and
don't.
this is a $350,000 house in Yorkville, Illinois. It's like, yeah, I mean, I really don't, you know, and they're like, come on, we'll pay you full price and all. It's like, yeah,
Right.
okay, I've heard that before, but it's crazy. Everyone's still, you know, or they want to convert them into Airbnbs, you know?
Yeah, I'm in or condo deconversions. Yeah, Chuck, that's a good
Yeah.
point. We're going to have Chuck on because I really want to talk about the commercial space because, you know, in a lot of these big municipalities, there's 50% vacancy in the downtown areas. And, you know, they're sitting there not knowing what to do with this space. And with interest rates, you know, like me and Dylan were talking about, up, down, and, you know, their debt's going up. So Dylan, explain that a little bit. Like if they got this property, this big commercial property 10 years ago, and now their debt has increased substantially because of rates, what does that do to their books?
Well, it does a couple of things, Larry. Obviously, the first one is, look, it affects the monthly cash flow, but it becomes a cascading sort of problem, right? So if your cost of financing goes up, and let's say it goes up to 10% of your gross revenue, it's going to turn around and not just eat into your margins, but now you got to raise the rent. Maybe you can't raise the rent, right? You can't recover all that money. You have other expenses going up at the same time. But just the fact that your financing costs go up puts you in a situation where it makes your property less valuable. And the reason is specifically on the commercial side of the business, but really any business, right? Commercial real estate is much more a business than residential real estate for the owner. So that person is able to sell that property for some multiple of the cash flows as it relates to the financing available in the current marketplace. So if you have a $10 million building and the monthly payment is, let's pull a number out of the air, right? 20 grand. And that number goes up to 25 grand. Well, you may experience that's 25% increase. You could experience a 20% decrease in your value from 10 million to 8 million. And it's all on paper, but you've lost $2 million in value because your cost of financing went up.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of these companies that own these huge commercial buildings in downtown areas are facing, because they don't have anyone to raise the rent on. They're gone.
Well, and look, that's one of the reasons I think why real estate flippers in the commercial space, even when they get a property that they are able to convert, right? They have a half rented office building or something else, right? Where they come in and they're going to turn around and manage it, and they improve the property, better tenants, better amenities, all this other stuff. They want to cash out and book that profit, because you could take a property from being worth $5 million to $7 million, and then rates go up and you're worth $5 million again. But all the money you invested still cost you money. So it's better to get in, do your deal, and get out to an owner operator.
Yeah. Hey, Dylan, so remember, we've talked in the past few weeks about DSCR loans, right?
Yep.
And where that sweet spot is, if your debt service coverage is around 1.25, you're golden. Well, look at there. Yeah, see what Chuck just mentioned is that most lenders want a minimum of 1.2 debt service coverage. So if all of a sudden you don't have that, they're looking at you with their side eye, right?
Right. For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. I don't think Chuck's a DSCR lender. And he actually said he's doing a lot of bridge loans now for flips, for commercial flips, which is interesting, because I didn't think those existed.
Well, you know what? It doesn't surprise me, Larry, to the point that I just mentioned, that people that much like the residential side of the business, you really fragmented into focus, right? Where you say, hey, look, we're either going to be a flipper and we're going to buy, fix, repair, and go, we talked weeks ago with Sam Prim, right, about buy, refinance, buy, repair, rent, refinance, right?
The Burr method.
Yeah.
Right?
And so Sam's doing it all. But I think that in commercial, more specifically, you find yourself in a situation where
Chuck said residential flips he's doing those on.
So you can find yourself in a situation where, as the market is shifting, you got to stay focused on either, especially on the commercial side, flipping, right, and becoming an effective operator that has a building that is doing better. But to turn around and make those kind of capital improvements in a property and then not capture your gains and leave that to the vagaries of the market, particularly the interest rate market, that could be a recipe for financial ruin on the commercial side.
Yeah. Meanwhile, with all this going on, right? Like with all crazy stuff happening with the commercial market, the REO market, which is always insane because you have people running it. And I don't mean John, but I mean people in Dallas or wherever the hell they are running it that have no clue what they're doing when it comes to selling real estate. We can both attest to that.
You know what a lot of these places are? They're just undermanned.
And they're undermanned now. Yeah,
that's what I'm discovering now is that they're just undermanned. You send a semi-critical email to somebody, it takes 2 to 3 weeks for them to respond.
Yeah, by that time the house is on fire, and
right, it's us. We already took care of it. Thanks.
But listen, check this out. With all this going on, right? Commercial, REO, everything else, we see some good numbers, but with everything going on, all this mishmash, right? The stock market's going freaking crazy. We're over 38,000. We're the stock market yesterday, I think, went up another almost 200 points. And so, where does Main Street and Wall Street meet?
Yeah, look at the jobs. Look at the jobs. I mean, the jobs are through the roof. But at the same time, if you look under the hood with that, most of it's part-time jobs or government-created jobs. I mean, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what the hell's happening. People aren't paying their credit cards. They're not paying their cars.
But they're still spending.
Emergency. Yeah, they're just spending.
I get the freaking roof.
I've gotten a couple of kids, like my kids' age, that whatever to be named later, but they're like, they go in to buy a house and they're debted to the max. They got the 2 car payments and $700 each, and their money's just barely making it, but they're good with it. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I look at this. It's just this gigantic balloon that just keeps getting bigger. And who am I to say? I've had people tell me you're nuts. Everything's great. Okay.
Well, everything definitely isn't great, but it's not as bad as it could be. And it's nowhere near what it was in 2008, 2009, 2010, because the dynamics are just completely different now than they were back then. I don't think we're going to see any kind of housing bubble or anything like that, specifically because there's just not enough houses on the market to have any housing bubble. And
no, these investors now will take them at a loss. They don't even care. It's like, give me they want to own every house there is. So any house you own right now, you may want to keep it because you may never get another one, Literally, that's what's happening.
It's really kind of messing with the market. It really is.
Oh, absolutely.
These corporate hedge funds that are coming in, and
it's total dislocation, Larry. I think the inventory problem largely would be solved if they had not been allowed to buy, or if their barrier to entry. Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks, Chuck.
If their barrier to entry was higher, right? Because at the end of the day, I think, John, you mentioned earlier, look, some people just shouldn't be homeowners, and I get that. But I don't know that we had an imbalance of rental property availability in the marketplace when hedge funds were not in it. And the thing that they've really effectively done over the last 10 to 15 years, maybe the last 7 is probably closer to accurate, is they've built the systems to effectively manage it, right? Like it used to be every single house was different. Every single house needed a different management situation, but they've come in and standardized this stuff. And I was reading an article once. She said, what the most interesting thing is that the nationalization of businesses and the supply chain for housing has made it very easy, because now you just run your business. If you're one of these hedge funds and you have a management company arm, you're like, look, these are the toilets we buy from Home Depot. These are the screws. These are the paint colors. And it doesn't matter where you are in the country, right? You can be in suburban Atlanta, or you can be in a high rise in Chicago, or wherever you are. And you're like, this is what we buy, right? As opposed to one-offing everything. And they'll go through the expense because, again, they're playing the long game, right? They'll rent forever. They're never putting that house back into the
That's their intention. Exactly.
So if they have to rip up the plumbing out of a house to retrofit it for these Home Depot toilets because they weren't built to the right specs when the house was built, like, you know, some house in DeKalb that was built in 1947, right? Yeah. And they'll turn around and be like, well, rip all the plumbing out and retrofit it to the current stuff and let's go. And if it costs them 10 grand to do it, they're like, well, that affects quarterly earnings, but we'll just raise the rent and we'll be fine next quarter.
Right.
And the rent.
Yeah. You know, we talked with Ivan and Jackie Mirandabaum a couple of weeks ago, and they're big Chicago real estate developers. They own a lot of multifamily, you know, 12 units, 6 units, whatever. And they do exactly, and they suggested to every other investor that was listening that day too, when they buy a property, they're using the same paint colors all the time. They're using the same, so they always have this stuff, and that's the way to do it. That's how I did it when I was flipping homes right after I got out of the REO market. That's what we did. You know, you paint the ceiling, the eggshell, this, you do that, you put these appliances in. This is the floor, the flooring we use. And once you get that whole thing down, it can become very profitable. And that's why these hedge funds are doing it. They're not doing it because, you know, they're taking a shot and seeing what happens. They're doing it because they know housing goes up, and they'll hold on to the house for 20 years as a rental. They don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why there's nothing
the
available.
other unintended consequence is some people are just forced to keep renting because there's no homes for them to buy, right?
Totally,
and it's because the hedge funds are holding the homes in the rental pools. And so it's not making it to the purchase pool, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Hey, we have tenants because nobody's willing to sell their house. You add to that an overwhelming majority of homeowners who have 4% and under mortgage rates. Like 80% of the houses that are financed, even now, a couple of years later after this market that we've had, 80% of the homes that have financing have it under 4%. Yeah. And only 60% of the houses in the market have financing. 40% are owned free and clear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. True. Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy because we're just dealing with so many things. You know, the real estate market is always changing, right? It's so dynamic, and things change. And but
Larry, you've been in it as long as I, you know. I mean, it's like, this is the weird where you couldn't see what was kind of, you could always kind of see what was coming. Right now, I don't know what the hell's going on.
Who knows? Spring market, summer market.
Yes, I mean, the spring market will probably be last year's spring market was a bust. You know, it was like there wasn't enough going on.
John, you are so right. I honestly believe the summer market's going to be a better market than the spring market this year.
You're probably right. Telling you, man. You just don't know what's coming.
Yeah, I really believe that it's now. The good news is rents have actually gone down, not a lot, by about 1% though. So that we are starting to see that, you know, we're starting to see that. John, did you just get into an accident or what?
I know. I don't know what happened there.
I'm kidding. So here, let me just change my.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
But you know, rents have gone down a little bit. The price of housing has also, you know, kind of stabilized. Now you still have these houses where if they're in great condition, in great areas, really sought after, you're going to get multiple offers on them, or at the very least, you're going to sell them quickly, right? But we're seeing some things lighten up on the rental side, which is good because
Yeah, a little bit. I have seen that too. A little bit.
Little bit, not a
Right.
lot, but
Right.
it's let's put it this way, it's trending the right way
Right.
for people that rent, because rents have really been out of control, and they've
Totally, yeah.
they've been a real problem for people.
Yeah. My son and his 3 buddies, his 3 roommates, rent a house from Invitation Homes, West Chicago, 2,500 square foot house. This place is so, talk about deferred maintenance, Dylan. It's like, I mean, the shutters are falling off. All they do is fix, is there a plumbing leak? They come over, if there's a shutter that's broken and falling off, they take both the shutters off.
Well, it's like your death insurance. I don't call it health care, I call it death care.
Yeah.
So it's like your death care in that they're going to help you as little as possible,
right?
And they're going to spend as little as possible, because
right.
Guess what? They don't care about you. They care about their shareholders.
They've been there 3 years. They raise the rent, whatever it is, 3%, whatever. And they're like, they try to negotiate it. It's like, nah, they can move out then.
Yeah, they'll get another renter in a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, the rental thing is just, what a mess that is. Our kids, what are they going to be? What are they going to be buying? A $500,000 1-bedroom apartment in east side of Aurora?
Well, we don't.
No offense.
Hey man, the east side of Aurora isn't that bad.
I'm just razzing, but
the thing, it's what we don't know that's coming. That is that $64,000 question, right? It's always what you don't know. Like no one imagined rents would be insane like they are now. When I first rented my first apartment, which was, Fred Flintstone was still getting his car repaired at wherever.
Right.
What was your first apartment that you rented, Dylan? Mine was, I think, $450 a month.
$335 in Glen Ellen.
I never rented in my life.
Okay, good for you.
But the first place I bought in 1993, the mortgage payment on it was a $76,000 above the garage quad townhouse, right? 2 bedrooms, 800 square feet. I might have paid on a mortgage payment. Right? I might have paid $700.
Yeah, hold on. Hey, boys, I got a split, man.
All right, bud.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Good to talk to you guys. I'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Take care, John. Be careful.
So yeah, Larry, I think that there's a lot of one of the things I think that is interesting. I'm going to mention it from a mortgage qualification standpoint to bring that circling back around. And hold on, I just got an NMLS notification about my license.
Nice.
State of Illinois has approved my license transfer to Neighborhood Loans.
You fooled them again. No,
Thank
I'm
God.
kidding.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm licensed in 12 states to serve you better, right? And
that's
I won't bore everybody with the list of states, but like 11 of them approved me yesterday, and the one I need is Illinois, and it didn't happen till today. So anyway, circling back, one of the interesting things is rent has become so expensive that we almost always were having conversations with first-time buyers about how it's going to be okay, even though you're increasing your house payment, even by as much as 25 or 30% by buying, because of the tax deduction issue, right? Because you can get you either get a big tax refund, or you can get more money in your paycheck if you talk to your employer and change your withholding and get that tax benefit dripped out over time, so you get more in your check to make that house payment. We don't have that conversation anymore. You know why? Some people are actually trying to buy a house to cut their payment.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, less so now with rates closer to 7%, but 100% in that window, 21, 22, early 23, when rates were still sub 6. The math was the landlords had raised the rent so much, right? Landlords were passing through 30% increases plus in rent, that you could absolutely buy a place. That's one of the reasons of those, and kind of one of the unspoken reasons or unidentified reasons to the public of why we were so swamped with buyers relative to the amount of houses available, right? The lines out the door, you remember from 2 and 3 years ago.
Oh,
that happened largely because it was literally cheaper to buy than rent for most first-time buyers, even at a minimal down payment.
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out as this year moves forward. I mean, I think we both agree we're not seeing a Fed drop in March. I think there's a good chance we'll see it in July. I still think we're going to see 2 or 3 Fed rate drops this year, which could, or maybe not, but could affect mortgage rates. And we'll see. I mean, it's just there's so many, especially an election year, so much stuff going on.
You're not wrong, my man. You're not
wrong. We're going to have to see what's going on. So one more time, name of the company you're with now and your contact information.
Neighborhood Loans. Phone number remains the same at 630-708-7088. Go ahead and shoot me a text or a call there, and I can get you the email information, all the other compliance stuff. All that stuff's going to be, and mostly is set already. But let's not bore everybody by posting it here. Call or text 630-708-7088. It's the best way to get a hold of me.
Yeah. All right, Dylan. Awesome talking to you as always.
Good stuff, Larry. Hey, we're going to talk more about VA loans on Saturday, right? I want to go deep.
We'll go deep Saturday on VA loans. Yeah, if you're a veteran and you're looking to buy, give Dylan a call. He's an expert on VA loans. He'll be able to help you. And the VA loan product is amazing, I think.
We're you know what? We're going to do a little myth busting, kind of stereotypical myth busting on Saturday. I think that's a great place to start. One of my roles with this new company is going to be to bump up their level of service to the veteran community. And so let's start leaning in right away.
Yeah. All right, man. See you on Saturday.
Thanks, brother.
Morning. All right, bud. See you. All right, everybody. We're going to wrap it up. Before we do, I just want to thank the sponsors of our show every single week. The first, of course, is Trusted Agent USA, trustedagentusa.com. Go there and you're going to work with the best agents in your area at the most reasonable commissions. But you're also, as you could see at the bottom of the screen, if you're in the Chicago Metro or in Illinois, we're going to be able to save you, excuse me, a ton of money on title, which is your second biggest expense when you're selling your home, next to, of course, real estate commissions. So one other thing, of course, if you guys are interested in getting the book, The Top 10s of Real Estate, 32 Proven Top 10 Real Estate Lists that are really going to help you max out your profit when you sell, buy, or invest, you can get that for free. Simply text the word book to me at 630-921-0611, and I'll get you a link to get that book for free. And you guys can check that out. So until we see you guys again on Saturday, remember, Saturday morning, 9 to 10 a.m., 8:20 a.m., WCPT in the Chicago metro market. You can listen in on the radio there, or you can catch us on Facebook at the Real Estate Radio Show podcast group, or on YouTube or LinkedIn as well. All right, you guys have an awesome, awesome day, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining us on Real Estate Radio with your host, Larry Shakman, the real estate therapist and top producing broker. Now go to trustedagentusa.com and save thousands when you sell, buy, or invest. Illinois license number 475-145-795. Tune in next week for the ultimate real estate radio experience. Thanks for joining us on Real Estate Radio with your host, Larry Shakman, the real estate therapist and top producing broker. Now, go to TrustedAgentUSA.com and save thousands when you sell, buy, or invest. Illinois license number 475145795. Tune in next week for the ultimate real estate radio experience.